Welcome to True Crime Talk. I am Nick Edwards. Joining me tonight, of course, we have Carolyn, we have Brian, but we also have a very special guest. His name is Nate Lewis. My browser on my computer right now is set to theinnocent.org. And the first page that pops up, it says, "What is the innocent?" And it reads, "The innocent bridges the gap between communities and local law enforcement by providing an avenue for the people to get involved at a local level in the battle against child sex crimes." And as the internet continues to grow and expand and social media gets crazier and wild and more kids are asking for phones and access to social media, this is something that local law enforcement need to be aware of. Many of us following the news and involved in the true crime space are well aware of it, but it's not a crime that's so easily investigated. These are perpetrators that are not so easily detected. And Nate Lewis is here from theinnocent.org to tell us more about these types of crimes and how we can identify these very serious and dangerous offenders. Nate, how are you doing tonight? And please tell us a little bit more about The Innocent.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. We're a team. My whole team is all active duty law enforcement, and I got a retired law enforcement officer as well. I'm sure that'll change as we continue to go off more than one retired. But we essentially go into communities, and usually one agency will host this training that we provide for free. We'll bring in some equipment and some technology, some software, certain things that make it efficient to do these investigations. And then we have them really recruit surrounding agencies, their top detectives from the surrounding agencies. And we put them through. We have a couple of lead detectives that kind of lead the charge. There's a couple different formats. So we come in first, we have a guy who comes in, teaches them how to build these profiles, where to go, how to start chatting these things, how to really build that online presence. And then we come back and it's a full-scaled operations course. It's a live operation. So those individuals that are pretending to be whatever they're pretending to be at that time, whatever our target is, they have usually drummed up some leads, are probably dating predators or whatever it may be. And then we get it's kind of like a quasi task force, right? You're taking several officers from all the surrounding 5, 6, 7 departments and giving them roles and responsibilities and then putting them through what it would look like to run one of these sting operations and then all the way to the arrest, the warrants, all those certain things, even the report writing, which no one loves to do. And so that's one piece of what we do. We have different sets of trainings depending on, it's all kind of customized to state laws, but also manpower, experience, that type of thing, what you're looking to do. Some departments have an actual human trafficking task force. So they want more of an advanced, like a recovery type of training, where some are just like totally underfunded, middle of nowhere, don't even know where to start. What does it look like? And so we could start there at ground zero and kind of just get them like what we call like at bats, going after the buyers. And it's kind of customizable. That's somewhat of what we do. We also have for the public, we have some really cool, we're partnering with some training that's coming out. It's kind of an education, but really training, but it's also for school resource officers. Some of my board members is a school resource officer. We really wanted to develop something for them since they're on the front lines with the kids in the schools. And it's now turned into something much greater. It'll be for hospitals, ER nurses, could be for teachers, counselors, parents, children. Mostly we'll be taking this training, and there's different levels of training. And then we just really try to educate. I get out there, I do these type of shows and try to just share truth with people of the realities of what's going on and how can we protect and preserve the innocence of children here in the United States. That's our mission. Protect and preserve the innocence of children right here in the United States. 100% in the United States. We're funded 100% by the people here in America. So that's a little bit of scratch on the surface.
Yeah, just in a few words. The thing I love about one thing I love everything you said, but one of the things in particular, getting the school resource officers involved and working directly with them, training them. It's the old give a man a fish, teach a man to fish, right? If you can teach the school resource officer, he or she can then take that as needed to the kids, to the teachers, to the administrators, to the parents, and can spread this wide and far and help protect many, many people. And then with the kids, I can't imagine that this is like the old traditional scared straight, but you're not having prisoners yell at these kids, but a lot of times it's an awakening. It's an awareness level. I don't think that many kids, while mom and dad might be telling them, look, there's bad people lurking on the internet, there's bad men that will try to contact you and ask you questions that they shouldn't be asking you, or get information from you. But it really, truly is an awareness and an awakening for these kids.
Yeah. Well, and it's a prevention, because if they don't know and they've never had these conversations, they're luring into uncharted waters. But if they've already had a conversation with somebody who had probably an effective conversation with them first and foremost, so they're not just introduced by, oh, some guy, I had an open account, some guy just sent me a photo saying rate my fill in the blank. And they had no idea that that was even a possibility, because I just got my Snapchat account. My parents just gave me a phone. And so being able to have those, be the first person to have those conversations with them of what is acceptable, what is, and even with young boys, we don't want to create the next generation of predators. So we really want to teach them that it's unacceptable to ask a female for photos. Like, it's illegal, but it's just don't make it common, because it's also like, I can't tell you how many girls are like, I get asked all the time from guys for photos. It's like, that's becoming like a common thing for young girls. It's becoming common. We don't want that. We don't want that to be a common thing.
No, and the other thing, look, and I say this with peace and love, because I love children, but kids are dumb. And for the most part, that's just because they have limited life experiences, right? They're not dumb. They're not lacking intelligence. They just have limited life experiences. So some of them can be easily fooled, easily tricked. And I remember, I don't know if you're familiar with the Anthony Schatz investigation that was going on in Indiana State just a couple years back, but you had this very unattractive, very disgusting guy. His name was Kegan Kline, and he was introducing himself to young girls. We're talking between the ages of about 9 and 14, and he was convincing them to communicate with him in these extensive chats over periods of time, and getting them to send him photos of themselves, and compromising photos of themselves, as well as getting photos of their friends and sisters. And of course, he was selling the ruse to them that he was this 19-year-old Justin Bieber looking dude with sports cars and a whole bunch of money. And, I was eyeballs deep in that investigation for far too long. And I was talking with a friend of mine who informed me that her daughter had been talking to a lot of different guys on the internet and on social media, and she didn't know who she was talking to. She had to confiscate the phone from her daughter because she was concerned of who she may be talking to. And I said, look, here's a picture of Kegan Kline. Now, here's a picture of the Anthony Schatz character avatar that he's created and sold to these kids and tricked them into sending him compromising photos. Now, show these to your daughter, because this is who she thinks she might be talking to, and this is the guy that she's actually talking to.
Yeah. Well, it happens every day, every hour of every day. That's constantly what we deal with and see all the time. Constant. And it's even worse now with AI. Here's the new one. You might be aware of this happening. It used to be like, hey, send me your photos. I'm this really cute boy. I've given you all this attention, all this stuff. And they actually take the real photo that the girl actually sent. And or the boy, actually. A lot of them are tricked. Boys are more easily tricked by girls, I'm sure you could imagine. And then they end up taking their own life, or whatever it turns out to be, right? Well, now it's different. Now they don't even need it. They can just go on their social media if it's open, take a couple photos that have fully clothed with their face on them, and AI can make them nude. And then they start sending them nude photos of them that they never took, and say, hey, I'm going to start spreading these around school and around, your family and your friends and this and that, unless, they're bribing them for money and certain things like that. So, now it's AI advancement plays into this as well with kids and social media and being online. It goes back to the importance of having a private account, which is hard for teenagers whose identity is connected to the amount of friends and followers they have, how popular they are, right? But locking your account down doesn't let you get 1,000 followers, right? And so, but having it open and getting 1,000 followers means you got people stalking you and potentially taking your photos and doing whatever it is. There's so many of those cases, but what you described, that case, that is the most common thing that's happening all the time. I mean, it is literally probably every hour.
What
Less than every
platforms
hour.
are you seeing used now most often? Is it Snapchat? Is it something else now? How are these predators contacting these kids most?
Yeah, well, so let me just give you the facts. This was from a human trafficking summit that we just attended in San Diego, and the facts that we were provided, I believe it was actually from a representative from Snapchat. I may be wrong on that one, but here's the facts. The number one recruited place, believe it or not, is Facebook. Number 2 is Snapchat. Number 3 is Instagram. Recruited. So here's the thing. I don't know why it would be Facebook. I don't know if there's more people on there, and that's why. I don't know what per capita, which one's most, but I can tell you right now, we've arrested people off of Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Reddit, you name it. It's prevalent everywhere. I would imagine wherever the most kids are. I don't know about per capita per platform, but wherever the most the kids are, it's probably going to happen and be recruited. We can't. I don't think we've ever existed as a teenager girl online and not been hit up ever. Like the fact that their algorithms are introducing, I use this analogy, go to the grocery store. I don't really mean do this. Please don't do this. But if you like just randomly went up to a 51-year-old that you don't even know and you were like, hey, I want to introduce you to someone I think you should know. And you walk down to the ice cream aisle and there's like an 11-year-old with her mom and you're just like, excuse me, just 1 second. I think I need to introduce them. And you introduce the 11-year-old to the 51-year-old, people would think you're absolutely out of your mind. But not only is that what's happening on these platforms, as soon as that young 11-year-old goes, oh, I need to grow my popularity, accept friend request. Now I go into the grocery store and I find 5 more people that look just like that guy. And if you look at who they're following, there's like 2,200 people's profiles that look just like yours as an 11-year-old and no one following them. And then as soon as you accept those 5, you get 10. And then 10 turns into 100. And then it turns into multiple hundreds within a week of people who they're suggesting should be friends with your 11-year-old daughter because they accepted the first one. And usually what we see, now there's different forms of this. The first message could be a real slow burn, like peel one layer, like, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Have you ever thought about modeling? I'm going to fake them out with, they can make $350 an hour doing a modeling shoot and they just take photos at home. They don't have to leave their house, right? And it can slowly go like that. We've seen it where it's literally the first message in their inbox is a picture of their private parts saying, rate my fill in the blank. That's a little more like smashing the innocence onion, I call it. But these are things that are happening. And most young girls, I would say even boys, but young girls, most adult women probably have had some form of interaction with somebody they didn't know, maybe even through a text message that got your number from a robot or something and started some sort of process to gain trust. And then here's the tricky thing. When you ask what platform, here's your cue, kids, parents. As soon as they're like, hey, let's go off of this Snapchat, let's just say, over to this other platform. And they're like, well, I don't even know what that is. Oh, just go download it from the App Store. There you go. First indicator, do not do that. Oh, great thing is that Meta, Snapchat, some of these platforms, they work really well with law enforcement, like really well with law enforcement. And these guys know that. And they also can't hide their identity. Part of the hard part of these investigations, like you mentioned, is you have to identify them, right? They can't just be like some name emoji that lives out there. Well, they work really well. Now, if you go on to these other ones they're trying to kick you over to, they're like built in the Middle East. They will not work with law enforcement. Good luck ever finding who these people are and bringing justice, right? So stay on these major platforms is what I always tell kids or parents, like stay on them. But you probably need to lock it down. And the more conversations you're having with strangers, you're probably going to end up being solicited or something's going to happen there online. So just don't do it.
Have you heard of any or encountered any kind of occurrences where this stuff is happening within like more games, like Minecraft or stuff, where it may seem innocent? I know my nephews play a lot of games on their phone, and I'm always a little leery of that.
100%. I think there's lots of open cases out there about where people met on video games. Again, this is a thing where whether it's boys or girls, they're building a trust and an emotional bond and a connection It may not be physical, but at first it's an emotional, intellectual connection with these individuals. They're absolutely, here's the thing, they're going wherever the kids are. There's two parts to this. Number one, it used to be like, oh, who's that creepy dude at the playground? Unfortunately, there's not a lot of kids on playgrounds anymore. Where are they? They're on the internet. They're on video games, way more on video games than they ever were. They're on social media. So not only is that where you're going to go to find kids, but here's the thing. Those guys can't go to playgrounds. There's cameras on every corner. Not only are you giving away your face and identity and your license plate, you're giving up your identity like immediately. Like you'll never get away with this meeting up with a child or taking someone from a playground or whatever. What they can do is sit in the comforts of their own home and spoof their ID, maybe their IP address, go through these sneaky platforms, start innocently on a video game, kick them over to a different platform, and then start really grooming them. So video games, absolutely. You know, if they're talking to strangers, that would have been acceptable when I was a kid. Like, stranger danger, don't talk to strangers. Now it's just, you don't even know who your kids are talking to. And that's a scary thing. I think that parents don't understand. They're like, oh yeah, like I want to protect my kids from all that's out there in the world that they might get involved with. Yeah, that's only half of it. It's who has access to your children. It's almost like you're downstairs cooking dinner and they're up in their room and there's like 12 people inside their room with them. They're strangers that you don't know what their intentions are. And they're hanging out with them in their room. You would never let that happen as a parent, ever. So why are you letting them do that on video games and on social media? So absolutely, I can't even imagine the number of cases that are out there if you started looking where they started on video games. 100% for sure.
What are some of the common platforms that they have kids try to move to? At least ones that you're aware of. I just would be curious if you have some names
so I struggle with answering this because what we've seen in the past is we shared some of these things that kids didn't know about, and they end up going there and checking them out. I don't know how many kids are watching or viewing or listening to this, and most kids, even parents, even law enforcement, have never even heard of them. You know, we gain a lot of intel from the people that we're communicating. They're like, have you checked out this forum on this thing? We're like, not yet, but thank you. You know, like, I don't want to give people these things because their curiosity is going to go there and you're going to ruin your innocence. Even some of these websites. I had a friend be like, dude, really? I don't know, man. Is this conspiracy? Like, is it really that bad? And I was like, all right, here we go. I'm going to go to one website. And I showed it to him and he was like, dude, you've got to be kidding me. I think I probably took a little bit of his innocence from him. Like the fact that it's a 100% pay for sex site and it's all very young girls. Right. And I think that I don't even want people to know these things exist, to be honest with you. So I want to answer that. I will do it offline with you, but I don't feel comfortable sharing that information because I don't want people to go there.
That makes sense. Yeah. I just was more thinking of, you know, if there's main ones that parents can at least be on the lookout for, of like, why is this on your phone? But your answer makes complete sense.
Yeah, but here's the thing with that. I would just answer it like this. The first warning is if they try to get you off of Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook Messenger, any of those, WhatsApp, I don't know, whatever. They're trying to get you off of some of these things onto other platforms. That's probably the red flag you need to not go do it. And here's the other thing: if they're not willing to text you from their personal cell phone, and they can hide their cell phones, but it's very hard to hide things these day and age. But stay on these mega platforms. If you have to go download a new app to talk to somebody, that's probably it's no good.
Gotcha.
And Nate will attest to this. So that was exactly what the Anthony Shots real life person Kegan Kline was doing. So he would these pedophiles, these predators, they'll cast a wide net, and it's like Nate said. Well, different version of what Nate said. Like going to the grocery store. Okay, when you're looking for a victim, you go to where the victims are, where the most victims are. It's like a herd of victims. You're going to find them on the big social media, the Facebook, the Snapchat, all of the big socials. And Kegan Kline was doing exactly that. He was meeting young girls on Snapchat and then very quickly convincing them to continue the conversation on these lesser known conversation apps and communication apps that I've never heard of, and moving the conversations there. So I think what Nate's pointing out here is that as parents, we don't have to be on every single social app or every single communication method out there. But if we are policing our kids on the major ones, that's a really good start. That's a really good start.
Absolutely. Look, I'll give you a hint of how these guys do this. Go to some mom, a bear, whatever, that has 1 million followers, right? Guess what that means? You have probably 900,000 moms following this person. So you have access to 900,000 social media accounts. I can promise you there's a large majority of those moms that are super proud of their young girls. I know this because we've done this and videoed it for people. You find one mom out of 900,000 who's an open account because she's also got the complex of I need to have a bunch of friends and followers because that makes me important. And she's posting photos of her 10-year-old's birthday party by the swimming pool and all of her 10-year-old daughter's friends in their bikinis. That's a predator's happy place. A mom's open account who loves to show pictures of her 10-year-old. That's where they go. And they can take those photos. They can sell those photos. They can download those photos. But just imagine how much access they have with 900,000 moms following someone with 1 million followers. It's probably more than 900,000, but I'm just saying. You have a massive pool to pick from. You don't even have to leave that person's account, that million followers account. It would take you months to go through 900,000 people's. Most of them might be hopefully private, but they got nothing better to do. This is what they do. They wake up in the morning thinking about it. They go to bed consuming this. This is what they do. So they're going to go wherever they can find it. And there's lots of ways to find it nowadays. Lots and lots of ways.
TheInnocent.org, Nate. So from my understanding, the education and the training that your organization provides to law enforcement, it happens in real time, right? It's training during an actual investigation. So how does that relationship come about? Is it because they are currently working an investigation, they just don't know the channels and know how to operate within that investigation? Or is it a matter of a potential threat? I mean, every community is under threat of this, but recognizing that and then contacting you guys.
Yeah, I think there's so many different ways. One, that they find us or reasons why and where they are in their investigations. We've had some that haven't really done any, so they want to start. And so they were like, well, let's find a way. Where do we start? Right. But we've also had some that's like, hey, we're doing the best that we can from what we think we should be doing. And we're seeing a lot of traction, but we might want to, at some point, actually know what to do. Right. And so there's different reasons. There's human trafficking task forces that are like, hey, what's your advanced courses? What does recovery look like? That type of thing. So there's a lot of different areas. People Google, people see us on social media. We had a video do over 500,000 views. We got a lot of traction from cops and departments from that. It's relationships. We go to human trafficking. I still send my team to, even though they've been doing this for a long time, one guy over 12, 13 years, just these investigations, I still send them to get the most advanced training because you also learn from other cops techniques and certain things. And so we'll make connections with other departments, other investigators. If they're proactively at an anti-human trafficking summit conference, that their department sent them there. So they're willing to put some money into this. They're probably building some sort of task force. They're prioritizing this. So we'll make those connections and we'll tell them what we got and we'll tell them that it's free. And then that's when usually they go, oh, well, let's talk. So we also have 3 different things that we can offer. So we meet them where they are as far as their manpower and investigations, but it's also customized to them. So just like I just answered, you get a department that's like, well, what's your experience? We have 0. Well, now we know where to start, right? Or, well, yeah, we've been doing this for a long time. How does prosecution like your cases? Where are they going with prosecution? Why are they not standing up in court? And so we want to identify where we can enhance their conviction rates and build stronger cases, what it may be. If they just need some technology, they're like, hey, man, we've been doing this stuff, but man, we know how expensive X is, or this platform. Is that something you guys pay for? Yeah. Hey, we need sophisticated evidence laptops so that we can run data or dump phones and certain things. Like, is that something? Yeah, that's something we can do super easy. So it just really depends. So many different scenarios. There's so many different scenarios. it's across the board, really, to be honest with you.
So if you're starting from scratch with a department and they are just beginning to learn how to deal with these kinds of investigations, where do you start? What's step one?
Step one is we're not trying to teach them how to be investigators because they probably already have investigative backgrounds. I got to be careful of everything that I share, but the first one is we send a guy out that spends a couple days with one or two of their detectives, probably their lead investigators. That's probably going to be the case manager or run these investigations, whatever. And we'll sit down with them. We'll put them through a training. It shows them how to build accounts. What does an account look like? Where do you build accounts? What are different scenarios? You could be a girl. You could be a parent selling your child. You could be a buyer. You could be a trafficker. You could be a sex worker. You could be all kinds of different things, right? So how do you build those things? How do you start giving it? You can't just be like, look at this account, 0 friends, 0 followers. Yeah, that's not a cop, right? So you have to start getting their online presence built, credible. If there's someone inside their department, there's lots of different ways to do this, but if there's a young female inside the department that wants to take this on as like running that social media account or accounts, plural, and you don't have to like make posts all the time, but stories or certain things, it could be stupid stuff. You got to start building your scores. A lot of these apps have like your rating and your score. It's like Snap scores or whatever thing. So you got to get their online presence, their backstop kind of built somewhat. Talk to them about what is entrapment. What's going to hurt you in court? What is leading these cases? Just like the basics, really, like really the basics of this crime. I'm not telling them how to be an investigator, but I'm telling them where you got to go and how do you do these things and what does it look like? Emojis, certain lingo. They're going to be using Urban Dictionary a lot. There's always new things coming up. What does this mean? And what does these numbers together mean? And what does that emoji mean? And start teaching them how to talk like these people talk. It's hard for a 40-year-old male to act like a 12-year-old. It actually is sometimes, and getting that down and getting all these other things down. And so once they get that and they start getting traction, how are you storing your evidence? How are you building these cases? Because they're really starting to build that case. That's kind of where we would start. Once they are doing that for a decent amount of time and they're dating these dudes, sometimes we call it dating these dudes because you have to actually date these predators. Like as a chick, you have to date these guys. And so they've dated them long enough, and then it finally comes to the meetup. Well, that's where we come in. So our second level, advanced, not super advanced course, but our course, scaled operations course is really coming in, bringing all the teams, like I mentioned earlier, together. What does it look like from beginning to end? And also working with a prosecutor. So we do bring in, if we can, we bring the prosecutors in because sometimes, as you guys may know in law enforcement listening, you can charge them with this crime, but the prosecutor is going to be way more difficult for them to charge them under those. But you could charge this statute and it could carry the same sentencing, and it's much easier for the prosecutor to charge them for those certain things. There's also elements of crime that you need to meet certain statutes. Working with a prosecutor prior to us even coming in and having these conversations is important. And you want them to be involved because they're the ones who are going to be taking this case. So you want them to kind of somewhat be involved in some of this. And so then we do a day of PowerPoint, which we hate death by PowerPoint, but there is a lot of things we have to cover. We do have actual drone videos of some of these takedowns and tactical stuff and certain things. It's not a tactical course, but we do run them through all different types of scenarios, risk assessment, all that. And then it comes to the point where it's like, okay, now let's go look at arrest sites. Let's look at surveillance sites. Let's look at plan Bs, all these things. We get it all. We build an operational plan. We go through the whole operation. Like, what is this operation going to look like? Roles, responsibilities. And then, then we go round them up. We do arrest dates. If they want to show up, they show up. If their judges are good and we can get warrants written and returned pretty quickly and we've identified them and gone through the proper steps, we can go to the workplace or home, depending on what elements of crime, what laws, and what we're looking to arrest for. We focus on children. Like we could do a heyday of people trying to pay for sex with adults. I think one of my guys arrested over 30 arrests in one day in Seattle doing adults, but we're focused on children. So it's a little bit more difficult, but that really becomes now like, let's go. Who's on the transport team, evidence team, takedown team? Like everybody has their role. And so that's why we put them through there. We're advisors. They get a rep down. We've basically taught them how to fish, going back to what you had mentioned earlier, then we can leave. And everybody knows their responsibility. They know who's on surveillance. They know what these look like. They know what they have to do to run these operations, undercover operations, and be successful at it. And they just continue to do that when we're onto another department. It's proactive. Essentially, everything we're doing is how are they going out there and being proactive so that they're not reacting to these crimes at a later date, right?
So what I'm hearing is, if you need a bunch of 40-year-old adults to act like 12-year-old girls, if you would just employ the cast from the Jersey Shore, we could wipe out this problem right away, eradicate these child sex traffickers and predators. So essentially, is the only thing that you're setting up and training for, look, and I hate to use the word only, but the majority of what you're doing is teaching departments to set up these sting operations, correct?
Yeah, to run these investigations, starting with the buyer, if that's where they're at, go after the buyer first, get some reputations, and then advanced course would be recovery. Whether you're a sex worker looking for a trafficker, looking to buy sex from a child, whatever it may be, and there's a live victim involved. So yeah, it's running these operations. That's on the law enforcement side. We have another thing that we do with the general public, trying to give them the power back and holding prosecutors and judges accountable, and really spearheading efforts and education and training on what to look for. That's more kind of the school resource officer thing I was talking about earlier, is like, what can teachers, parents, what kind of training can they do? And then following these cases, most people don't even know that a lot of this information is open to the general public, like who's been arrested. You can actually sit in on some of these trials. You can see follow that case. What are the prosecutors pleading out with? What are judges handing down as sentences? And then how does this community hold them accountable for what they're not doing?
So if you're not, do you work in the world of, we don't always make physical arrests? Do you work in the world of forensic data collection to let the data lead you to the perpetrator?
Yeah, there is a lot of significant amount of that. And it's really because you have to identify the person, right? And so there are lots of tips and tricks and things that you can do to identify this person. And so there is a lot of that. Now, forensics, hopefully they have a forensic team or a lab or HSI or somebody close by that has a real forensics department. We're not really a forensic training. That's not what we do. Kind of help support with some forensic software and trainings so they can go get some of that, but that's not what we do. But I will say that there is some of that inside the training. There is some of it.
I took this 3-day course a couple years back that I wish I could do it again. I keep waiting for them to offer it soon, because I would take it a million times if I could, just to see the advancements and how things have changed, and technology is rapidly changing. But one thing I found incredibly fascinating was it was a CSI type course, but one thing I didn't expect was the forensic data collection portion of this course. And one thing I learned there was that when you arrive on a crime scene nowadays, one of the first things you're looking for is perpetrator phone, victim phone. And with the perpetrator, if you can find perpetrator phone, collect it in a way to secure it, lock it down so that it can't be scrubbed remotely. And that was, my little brain didn't even think of something along that level. And so, there's so many different ways to find these. That's what's crazy, right? As technology advances, it opens up more doors, more pathways for predator to find and locate and procure a victim. But also it increases and adds more tools to the Batman utility belt for all of the detectives and investigators out there. I feel like sometimes we're moving at light speed here, and it gets overwhelming, I think, for the parents in particular, when they go, my God, how many keyholes do these predators have into my home to communicate with my children?
Yeah, well, let me touch on a couple things with forensics. We do the basics, which is, the phone, Faraday bags, airplane mode, chargers. We provide all that to the law enforcement. We build them a kit so when they go on these arrest sites, they know they have it there. Here's the advancement that I think is really cool. Some of these predators, sick individuals, they're obsessed with child sexual abuse material. And so they'll store it on thumb drives. They'll hide things. Maybe they know the cops are there. They throw their phone. They try to, whatever they do, they're trying to hide it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with ESD canines. These are canines that are trained like a bomb or drug sniffing dog, but they sniff out electronic storage devices. Could be a phone. We've seen mini SD cards the size of your pinky fingernail hidden inside of a fake quarter. The dog keeps hitting on the change, like what? And then a ring on the windowsill. You see that the quarter doesn't feel right. You pop it open, and inside is a mini SD, and there's tons of evidence inside there. So we found them not me personally, but I know of cases where they found them frozen inside ice in a freezer. The dog hid it because they don't want that to be found, right? This is all this stuff, all this data, all this image. It builds a stronger case for you as well. And so there are advancements on that. If you haven't, Todd Jordan Detection Canine invented this. One of the most amazing human beings. I've been to his facility. I love this man. He's changing the game. It's just unbelievable what he's done. He was an arson canine trainer. And it's a cool story of how he developed this. But these are all labs, floppy eared, high drive, really cool. They also have done so much for the law enforcement officers themselves as far as like comforting them in these sex crime investigations, which are brutal. They're awesome. Then that's something very cool to look into if you haven't looked into those. That's a cool advancement, I think.
It's one of my questions too that leads to, for the people conducting these investigations, especially if they're having to actively communicate with these predators, what advice do you give them, or is that part of the training at all? Just how to deal with that weight?
Oh, that's such a hard question. I don't know if there's a real answer. One of my hopes and desires for this organization is that someday, maybe in the next couple of years, is we can actually, part of our training is going into law enforcement first and foremost from the top down and changing the stigma around what is mental wellness. And I think mental wellness is a better way to approach this, because it takes a team. The turnover rate, burnout rate, and I've experienced it in my own life is extraordinary. It's hard. You're dealing with, I always try to explain it to people, and first responders know this, but a lot of people don't. I don't know if you're a paramedic or a firefighter and you show up on a car accident or a house fire and there's people inside, it's always traumatic. But when there's a child in the car or in the house, it's more traumatic. And when you're dealing specifically solely with child crimes all the time, it becomes very difficult. But you need to have the support from your admin all the way up to the top, your spouse. I think that, there's a lot of fear inside law enforcement. I always tell my guys, free, unlimited therapy. I don't care. Just figure it out. Even if the department says they'll do it, I know firsthand, like, yeah, you do it. You think it's great for a year and a half until you're in an officer-involved shooting, and now you're raked across the coals and you're under an investigation, and they're now saying that you have mental health issues. That's why you've been going to therapy for a year and a half, where you're just trying to stay healthy, right? And so there's a lot to do there. I have my own regimen. People ask me all the time, what do you do, Nate? What do you personally do? And I have my own way of I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know if anyone's figured it out. I think there's a lot of things that can help. There's a lot of tools to put on your belt. Law enforcement just in general deal with so much. It's difficult. It's just a difficult profession in general. I don't have an actual program to roll out to give to people. My advice, this is part of the training somewhat already. You have to balance your life. It can't all just be work. You have to also have hobbies, but you also have to stay active. You have to eat right. So when we come into a department, we provide snacks and food, but we want them to be eating healthy. We want to train them in a holistic approach to being healthy. How do you sustain this? How do you go long-term, long hours, dark, late nights, just all those things? What do you do? Do you exercise? How do you let this out? And so everybody's a little bit different. Even in my own personal relationships, I'm always curious, what do you do? And everybody kind of has their way of dealing with it. I don't think at all anymore. I think that there are a lot of people I know, my close friends, they Hitting the booze is an easy way to kind of numb and heal, but it doesn't work. It's only temporary. For me, I spend an hour in the morning quiet before everyone else gets up in solitude, without a phone, nothing. I have my own little ritual that I do and try to reset the day, start a new day, take it one day at a time, really reset. Now, don't get me wrong. There's things that bleed over for days. But if I don't do that, I can see chaos building much rapid, and it just grows and it gets bigger and bigger. I have to try to exercise, eat right, get sleep, and just try to stay physically, mentally, spiritually healthy. But I think I'm doing as great of a job as I can, and I still haven't mastered it. I don't know. I hope I do someday, but I don't know if you can. I just don't know. I don't know if that's part of the sacrifice. And my family has to be a part of that. And unfortunately, probably the brunt of some of it. And it's not things that I think anyone's proud of. Man, the levels of hate. I walk around pissed off a lot. I'm pissed at people. I freaking hate these evil individuals and what they're doing. And it drives me nuts. My body boils, my blood boils, and I'm just pissed off. And I don't want to be pissed off. So I need to reset every morning. But it's hard not to be. Man, you just want to do so many things that you can't do. And so, man, it's hard. It's hard to walk around pissed off all the time. Hating people. It's
probably hard to make yourself take a break and walk away from it because as you say, these people in the departments running these accounts, if you're not on there catching these guys, they're out there contacting children. It would be very hard, I would imagine, to walk away, to take those breaks and to take care of yourself.
Yeah, it was almost impossible for me for the longest time. I'm getting to a point now. I know in order to remain healthy, I have to take breaks and take breaths. And I also have gotten a lot of great mentors around me too, and coaches that tell me like, hey, you can't save the world, bro. Like, you can only do so much. And I think if we have the mentality of like, and I did, and my wife fell into it a little bit too. It was like, if you don't, think of what could happen. And you carry that kind of guilt or whatever it is that you're like, yeah, I have to do this. Yeah. You're right. I got to go. And, I think I'm trying to walk myself off the ledge, and my wife, out of her own heart, is like, no, you have to. If you don't, think about this, and she means all well and good in it. And then at some point it kind of consumes you. Right. And you have to realize that, hey, look, you can only do so much. You can only do so much. And here's the other part of it too. I just had this conversation earlier and with my board. How good am I if I'm not healthy? What happens if I burn out? I'm the kind of the visionary, the leader of this organization, but I have an incredible team around me that only makes it happen. If it wasn't for them, this wouldn't happen. But if I burn out, they've told me, like, who carries that torch? So I can't. There's a lot more weighing on that, is that I have to. If there's a time and people say like, well, what do you do? There's another one that I haven't mentioned. It's a win-win-win. I have to take a break and go hang out with my kids. I have young kids. One, to see their innocence, but also like they take away the worry. They don't worry about stuff like I do. They don't see the world how I see it. And they bring me joy. They laugh. They want to be superheroes. They want to build Legos. They want to go throw dirt clods. They want to have fun. And I think that I'll speak for myself, I guess. You stop having so much fun, like you just get so committed that, you forget about that, but they fuel me, and it's good for me. It's good for my kids to be around. And it's good for me mentally to throw dirt clods and build Legos. Sounds stupid, but it's the truth.
It's shutting off your mind, because in other ways too, it's not just the emotional and the stress of it, but too, like I find with me, and I get in these large crowds or these large social settings, football games, fairs, things of that nature. And I'm very aware, because of what I do and how long I've been doing it, that the world is made up of a whole lot of sheep and a handful of wolves. And I get in these large crowds and immediately I'm distracted. I cannot enjoy myself. I cannot hang out with people and be social and accessible to them, because in my mind, I'm looking through the crowd, sorting out the sheep from the wolves, sometimes even nonsensically, and then getting angry at the sheep because they're not smarter, they're not wiser, and then getting angry at the wolves because I know who they are and what makes them tick. One thing before we let you go here, Nate, I really want you to touch on this, because I think that this is something that we're seeing in the news, and it's a growing problem, and it's been growing for some time. This is not new, but this is something Carolyn and I have had a couple conversations about off mic, and it's something that's very alarming and very troubling. But could you talk and educate the persons out there listening, the people out there, especially the parents, about sextortion and what that is and how that's affecting? Because we're seeing suicide rates climbing in children because of sextortion.
I know. It's so sad. I've heard of so many, but I'm going to share one. This is a recent one. This kid had this interaction online with, the boys think they're talking to these really cute girls, and they find out that they're not. But this one happened. This kid committed suicide within 20 minutes. That's how fast this conversation escalated and moved. And I'd never heard of that. I've never heard of that fast. You can Google a lot of these foreign. I think there's a really famous case out of Nigeria. These men out of Nigeria that were pretending to be young girls, fake accounts. Like I said earlier, all I got to do is go to that 1 million followers, find a mom, hold my finger down on her daughter's picture, or she's tagged them, and go just start pulling photos and build my own account. We do it all the time. That's what we do. Like you asked me, what do we do? That's what we teach cops to do. Build these fake accounts. So this happens, and what happens a lot to boys, to be honest with you, because boys want pictures from girls and they get attention and they're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And they start building this relationship, and he starts sending these photos of these girls that he's probably taken from girls. He's forced them, like this guy you're talking about, to send them these photos. And he's using those photos now to bribe this boy to send photos. Well, he thinks it's this girl. This person's now friending. And they go, oh, yeah, he's friends with Nick, so I might as well be friends with them. And they start friending his friends with friends. And now you're friends with parents and friends with whoever and everyone. And then the next thing you know, this person's like, oh, by the way, sending these pictures back. These pictures, I'm going to send those to all the people I just friended, like your mom and then your sister and all the people at school and that girl Whitney and your cousin and all this stuff. And they panic. What? And they're like, yeah, I'm actually a 40-year-old male, and you need to wire me $10,000 by tomorrow, or these go public. This is a real case. This is the one you can look at, these guys from Nigeria. You can Google it. And this boy didn't know how to go to his parents, which I can talk forever about the parents. What do you do in these situations? But he didn't go to him because he was afraid. He didn't know how he was going to come up with $10,000. He didn't want to be embarrassed, so he ends up taking his own life. And now these are common. These are way more common. There's a case 2 days ago here locally. A guy reached out to me, talked to me about a 12-year-old system. She came forward because her friend just hung herself at 12 because she was sexually abused and she couldn't deal with the demons. And then this girl said, well, I don't want that, but I need to talk to somebody. Reaches out to her uncle. Uncle contacts me. And we start doing this whole thing. But this is a 12-year-old girl hanging herself. Why is this happening? Here's the problem, parents. We are in such a different generation, and we have to, as parents, understand we're digital parenting now at this point. That's what I call it. When I used to go to school, I'd get bullied at school, and I'd come home and get bullied by my brother, but that wasn't common for everyone. Kids are now being bullied at school and coming home and being bullied online at home. Not from their sibling, but from people. And they're being harassed or they're being groomed or whatever it may be because they're constantly connected to their phone. And I can go on and on about parents not giving. People think I just won't give my kid a phone. And yeah, if you want to talk about that, I can go into that. I don't think that's the best advice, but that's like their kids, their friends have them first and foremost. But let me describe it like this. Your kid turns 16. You don't just go, hey, here you go, throw them a set of keys. You spent hours practicing driving. You're in the car with them while they drive. They've taken tests. They've gone through the state, taken tests. They've practiced. They've sat with a stranger in a car that graded them on how they perform. You've taught them what to look for, what's dangerous, when to stop. What does a yield sign mean? What does this mean, right? Everything. You spent a long time making sure that they're safe. You've probably even bought them a car that has all the bells and whistles with beeps when they cross the lane. If there's a car, like trying to protect them and keep them safe. But we never talk to them about the risks and safeties about what's happening online. Right now, every platform has disappearing messages. Parents, the first thing you need to do, if you own that phone, you paid for the phone and you pay for it monthly, that you possess that. That's yours. Like, it's not your child's, just so you know. So you are in control. Turn off disappearing messages. That's the most dangerous thing your child can do right now, is be communicating with people and their messages disappear after a set amount of time. Number one, you don't know what they're doing, what they're sending, what they're receiving, conversations they're having, who they're talking to. It's all gone. Same with law enforcement. So we got to turn those off. There's no reason for that to even to be on unless you're hiding something. And as the parent, you need to set that rule, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to start having those conversations, and they feel safer sending photos or having these conversations because they know it's going to disappear. That's the first step you got to do. You got to get in there. You got to have these conversations. You got to start figuring out how to navigate online safely. You got to start setting boundaries. You can't just hope, hey, they turn 18, they go get a job, they get their own phone, they get on their own social media accounts, they know nothing about it. Their friends are on it anyways. They're going to be on it. So you got to just get real about what's the dangers. What do you do to protect yourself? What is there to be aware of? And what does it look like? How do you report it? And then when they do come to you, make sure it's a safe place. Don't react. Because the time and time again, when you're talking to children, like, tell me about what happened, right? Well, I went to my mom. She freaked out, took away my phone, grounded me for 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. They will never give you any more information. This is all the part of what we train law enforcement. You know, like the first question you ask is, what's your favorite food? And then you get it, and then you shut up. You don't react. I just had this conversation with the parent. If that child is finally getting the courage to be vulnerable, to talk about the worst thing, first of all, people don't like talking about the best intimate relationship they've ever had or best scenario. Let alone the worst, but they get the courage up to come forward and you react like, what? I'm going to kill that mother. You know, they're not going to be free to just give out more information, right? They're kind of just putting a line out there, seeing what's going to react. Is it safe? Okay, I'll give a little bit more. And it's really not till like day 3 where they're really like, oh, you know what? I didn't really tell you everything, right? So creating that safe place for your child to come to you. And we even say this as law enforcement, like we're trying to teach them, like, hey, tell them, like, hey, you're not in trouble. We're not going to arrest you for the drugs. And actually don't arrest them for the drugs. Because you're trying to build a relationship with someone and a trust with someone who's been told not to, right? And these guys who are grooming your kids are saying the same thing about the parents. Oh, your parents just don't understand. They don't get you. Screw your mom, you know? And so if you're creating a safe place for them, when they do come forward, they're probably going to come forward more often, because I'm telling you, they feel horrible. I did something really stupid. I sent a photo and now I don't know what to do. Thank God there's a new technology. I can't remember the name of it, but you can probably find it. If a child sends a photo, they can actually upload that photo to this website and it'll scrub the internet. Anywhere that photo is ever used, if it comes up in the future, they will flag it and take it down. So at least there's some technology doing good things out there now to help protect that photo, because those kids don't realize those photos now exist and who knows where they'll be forever, ever. So it's, I know I probably didn't answer the sextortion thing too much, but it's kids just being online and getting accessed online, manipulated, groomed online to do things, bribes that turn into terrible things.
The Innocent provides advanced training for investigators to proactively intervene, interrupt, and avert sex trafficking, online exploitation, and sexual abuse. The Innocent is dedicated to deliver justice, provide hope, and ensure the protection and safety of children at no cost to law enforcement. He is Nate Lewis. The website is theinnocent.org. Go there. Nate, thank you for joining and educating us here today on True Crime Talk.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thanks for pushing this out there and letting people know what the truth really is. So thank you.